Hello, my fishy friends, and thank you to our ANZAAP folks for having us. Welcome to a very special episode of the Getting Fishy With It podcast. I'm Josh.
I'm Amber.
I'm Christine.
And today we're going to be talking about science communication and a little bit of species spotlight. So before we do that, let's just get into our introduction. So I'm happy to go first. Also, I want to say hello to future me since this is being recorded. Hello, future me, looking handsome. Everything's going well. You're doing great. Good luck with the questions at the end. So my name is Joshua Barber. I'm the I'm the assistant director. I want to say associate every time. I'm the assistant director of aquatic and reptilian life at Columbia University. I also served as the ZHA president 2 years ago now, right? I think so. It was 2023. That was when, right? So yeah,
I'll take your word for it.
I think it was 2023. I'm getting like lost in the years. It's all a blur. So that's me.
My name is Amber. I'm an IACUC analyst at Northwestern University in Chicago, Illinois, over in the U.S. And I am also a longtime member of Zebrafish Husbandry Association, so ZHA as we like to call it. And I'm currently the executive social media and outreach for 2025.
That's awesome. Yay.
Are you doing a great job?
I'm the executive now. I'm Christine Archer. I am the Zebrafish Facility Coordinator at University of Colorado's Anschutz Medical Campus in Denver, Colorado, also in the U.S., but I'm originally from Canada. I also was a Zebrafish Husbandry Association president the year before you, Josh. I think
it's
whatever
true.
year that was.
You guided me.
What is time anymore? I don't even know. But yeah, so I think we all kind of have our backgrounds in zebrafish in some way or another. But in general, we're just fish nerds. So I guess we'll talk a little bit just about how the podcast came to be. I got the idea of the podcast because I sat in like an online conference, kind of like the online component of ANZAAP, where I did basically zebrafish office hours at a lab animal science conference. So I was stuck at home. We were all stuck at home. This was like COVID times. And so they had the opportunity to like just make chat rooms basically. And I love chat rooms. I'm an OG, like elder millennial. I love chat rooms. So I basically just posted on like the social area of the conference and said, hey, I'm going to sit in this chat room to talk about zebrafish questions or just aquatic animal model questions. Come and ask me questions. I'm going to do office hours. Mm-hmm. And that day I sat in that video chat for 7 hours and just kind of just held court and just like talked about stuff and gossiped about fish stuff. It was just like what we do when we get together on the podcast, right? Mm-hmm. And I was like, you know what? I want to either start Twitch streaming and just sitting and talking about this stuff or something. So I think maybe like a couple of years ago, I talked to you about this, Josh, or like a year and a bit. And I wanted to get Amber involved too, because Amber and I have been chatting a lot about zebrafish stuff. So I kind of just like chatted with both of you. And then we met and chatted about the possibility of doing it. And here we are like rounding out 50 episodes soon. And it's been like a year and a half, something like that. Right. Mm-hmm. So but yeah, that's kind of, do you guys want to add anything about how the podcast came to be?
Yeah, I just want to say that I knew Christine initially from previous interactions, but I didn't know Josh at all. And so, yeah, it was like, I didn't even know. Yeah, I wasn't like I was just starting out in like zebrafish husbandry. And so getting to know people, but I wasn't really like deep into the organization. And so it was a really good opportunity to meet like, you know, people like Josh and then other people like throughout the organization, like through this podcast and even people outside of ZHA too. It's been like a great opportunity for that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I second that. Yeah. I didn't know Amber at the time. And now we've like become good friends, which is great. It's like kind of weird to think about a time when I didn't know you.
Yeah.
Like our first meeting, I can't even remember what that was like, but I had heard your name from Christine and she had nothing but good things to say about you. And yeah, I was part of the ZHA, but like I was a distant part in a lot of ways. Like, you know, I think that just is what happens for some people. And so like, I knew some of the original people from way back in the day, but I kind of like took a step back and then, you know, around the time that I got like nomination for president, then I was like, oh, like I need to get plugged back in here instead of just being like only watching the listserv sometimes and stuff. And so then I became much more involved. And I'm happy I did. And it helped me, obviously enable me to get to know Christine really well and then Amber through that. So yeah, it's been a great experience.
I didn't meet you until after you had been nominated because I saw your name on the list of nominees and I'm like, who the heck is this guy?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what happens.
I met you and the rest is history.
Yeah, exactly. And like, yeah, I think it's like I would go to things occasionally, but that's just how it goes. I do have a lot of regrets about not like being more involved like earlier, because I feel like I missed out on like the Daniel Zoom Fridays during COVID. I mean, I was just doing my own thing, and it really would have actually been good for me to have the extra support. I just didn't know about it. So that's my bad.
Well, I am glad that orgs like CHA and like ANZAAP exist, because I think we're stronger for like the work that we do just because of like the folks that we connect with. So I think that like I'm thankful that orgs exist like these. So
yeah. Thanks, ANZAAP. Thank you for existing.
Yeah.
So we want to talk a little bit about the benefits of science communication, because that is primarily what we do, right? We're sort of laying out a lot of, it's not all just like hard science. Sometimes we're just talking about like basic husbandry stuff or whatever. But the idea is basically that we want to try to make science as accessible as we can to the layperson, right? There's a lot of jargon. I mean, I find myself having to correct people sometimes, like, hey, just so you know, not everyone knows that a PI is a principal investigator. Some people think that's a private investigator, right? Like, so just so you know, that's like, this is a term that we're so familiar with. So just as an example, but basically, I think it's important because, you know, the public votes, right? The layperson is the person who has influence on who is putting policy forth, right? They're voting people into office who are making decisions about science. And so if people know nothing about science and nothing about fish and nothing about, you know, scientific studies and things like that, I think we're doing ourselves a disservice. So I think that science communication, or SciComm as they call it, is a really important thing just in today's world, where we're trying to make sure that we educate people as best as we can. And I think also it helps for us to build trust in science and sort of enhance public understanding, right? Which is kind of like what I said, right? Like of different scientific advancements. So you want them to sort of come along with you. Personally, the way I feel too is like, I think sometimes when you get to know people on a podcast, you do feel like you know them, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I listen to a lot of podcasts and I feel like I feel like I'm friends with all these comedians.
There's actually a term for that. It's called parasocial relationships.
Boom, that's what I have. And so, but I do think it just seems like this day and age of podcasts are like a lot of people get their information from podcasts, and they trust their podcast people. They really do. And so we want to be a trusted source. So it's important. I mean, when we do species spotlights, when we do stuff like that, we really make sure we do our research and we come from a place of knowledge. And, you know, I think between the three of us, we have a nice Venn diagram, so we can always usually cover everything, right? Like if there's something that I'm weak on, sharks, then I have these two to help kind of like fill in those gaps, right? So that's the idea.
You hate sharks, so we know that.
I don't hate sharks.
I was just going to say that we also have guests that come onto our podcast, and we try and recruit people from diverse backgrounds too. And so not only are they, you know, well versed within their field, but, you know, like it's really nice to connect with somebody, right, that maybe had like a similar background as you, and seeing kind of how they progressed throughout like their life, their career and whatnot. And so I feel like that's what makes us, you know, kind of stand out aside from other podcasts. It's just having people you may have not known before, but like Josh was saying, now they've become kind of like your friends, or like a way to, you know, get closer to those people.
Definitely.
For sure. I think some of the connections that we have made, even just from like connecting with folks to have on the podcast, have been pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So, and I think one of the bigger challenges for me is like, there's so many people I want to have on the podcast, and it's just like, you can only have so many episodes.
Yeah.
True. And more editing for Amber, the more people we have on. So we should like take it easy.
I think we've had like a total of 5 people, right? On like one episode. Yeah, that was
we'll
fun.
Try to avoid that.
And so moving on to favorite experiences while doing, I guess, this podcast. And so some of like the conferences that, you know, we've been to, as we mentioned, or I don't know if we mentioned it briefly, maybe, ALAS. And so Animal Laboratory Science. And so they usually have a conference every year that's focused on lab animal science and, you know, kind of like advancements within the field, also connecting with like other people in the field. And so for us, it's a pretty big thing because that's something that Zebrafish Husbandry Association likes to partake in. And so we all three of us were able to go to the one in 2023 in Salt Lake City, Utah. And that was really fun because for me, that was my first ALAS conference that I went to. And Christine was very nice to kind of show me the ropes of everything, like how to manage like a booth for ZHA. So that was really cool. And then alongside that, we got to, visit the Salt Lakes because we did do, briefly getting shrimpy with it. So for I think a full month, we basically changed our podcast to getting shrimpy with it instead of getting fishy with it. And all we talked about was brine shrimp with experts on brine shrimp. So that was really cool to kind of, feel a better connection to what they were, describing in those podcast episodes, which you can check out. And then we finally got to also see the Loveland Living Planet Aquarium. So I feel like anytime I go anywhere, I have to go to the nearest aquarium or zoo. And so this was no exception. Christine was able to hook us up, with being able to check out the aquarium. And I really liked it.
Yeah, it was great. I always like to try to get connections with folks that work at those aquaria to try to get a little behind the scenes or something like that. So it's cool. But yeah, I'm the same. I plan my travel around what aquariums are nearby or zoos. So
yeah. Yeah, I think we, we could talk about this in the future sections, but I think we like the idea of going and visiting aquariums wherever we go and doing an episode about them because we've done a couple episodes about aquariums that we visited and we would love to do more. We'd love to be able to just have it paid for.
Yeah. Let us come to your aquarium, but pay our way, please.
Yes. And then we also did go to PAX 20 in 2024. And so not sure if any of you are familiar with PAX, but basically it is
what does it stand for?
Penny Arcade Expo. And they do have one in Australia in Melbourne. So it's a gaming convention. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe
I'm
people are
PAX
familiar
right now. PAX
nice.
But we actually had a panel at PAX, which again, Christine really spearheaded that and was able to kind of get us, a panel. And we talked about, fishing games. And so it's sort of relevant to how we talk about, things that have to do with anything fish, even sometimes if they're not fish, but fish is in the name. And so that was a really cool, unique experience. Just, very different from going to these other conferences like ALAS or whatnot, where we got to have a little more fun with it. So yeah.
Yeah, it's cool to get. And one of the ways that you can do SciComm is to get people interested by doing pop culture type stuff, right? So when you get folks in and no pun intended, hook them with something that's related to something they're interested in, then you can be watch this. Also, you can listen to this episode all about water chemistry.
I don't know if I told you that. Maybe I told you guys this, but when I first met my wife, she did not care about fish. And actually for many years, even when we lived together, obviously she wasn't my wife back then, but she didn't care. And then this year, or well, not this year, 2025, but 2024, there was just so much fish activity in the house that something changed, something clicked. And now she's really into fish. And she notices because sometimes we'll see an obvious behavioral, a behavioral change that means that there's a problem or whatever. She notices it very quickly now. So she's really getting good at it. And I kind of feel proud of the fact that it's kind of a SciComm thing, but it's kind of just hey, just being surrounded by it enough, really got her into it, which is cool. So of course I'm happy.
Yeah, there you go. That's how you get more tanks.
Yeah. We're up to 3 right now. We need to probably scale it back.
Yeah. But I think that's really cool because I think, again, another one of the, things I see with our podcast kind of standing out is the way we interact with each other. And then also with our guests and how much excitement that we have for the topics that we're discussing. And I feel it's not going to be fun to listen to an episode if everybody is just kind of we're talking about betta fish today. But because we go in and we're just no, we are psyched to talk about this. I think that's really infectious. And people just kind of are just I want to learn more about that,
Yeah, I think there's nothing worse than like, and it's hard. Some people have a hard time like improvising things, and I get that. But it's tough when someone is very clearly just reading off a script. I have a really hard time listening to stuff when people are just so. I think that's one thing where you kind of have to have chemistry with the folks that you're talking to, and like build a rapport with the folks you're talking to. And if you don't have that, and you're just like monotonous reading off a script, and I mean, we have an outline. I keep looking at it.
No, we don't. What are you talking about?
We're just totally doing this off the top.
We're doing this. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's just like, you know, the outline is something to build off of. It's not something to read from verbatim, not verboten.
And so one of the other episodes I just wanted to quickly highlight, at least for, you know, my favorites, was Cuttlefish Husbandry and Research with Connor Gibbons. And so we spoke with Connor Gibbons, who is a cuttlefish manager, I believe, over at Columbia University. And so again, cuttlefish is not a fish. So for just putting that out there, but it was still really cool to, again, go in like kind of like a different direction, talk about something not, you know, that's still like within the realm of like fish, but a little bit different than what you're used to. And then we also did Fish in Space with Dr. Moya McTeer. And again, that was another one that was just kind of like, I never would have thought we would have discussed like fish in space, but I learned so much from that. Even if it wasn't, you know, like talking about water chemistry or things like that, which are also important topics. But again, just something a little bit more fun.
For sure.
Yeah.
Astrophysicist and folklorist. She was quite the accolades.
Yeah. Cool. But what about you guys? Like, did you have any, you know, favorite episode that we did, or like any like conferences or events that we also did?
I think I think you highlighted a lot of the stuff that I liked as well. I think the only one that like the ones that I kind of remember vividly episodes that we did were the reproduction episodes. I thought those were super fun. I think we did 2 of them. And it's just, I love talking about it because I love sharing with people about the crazy ways that fish reproduce, because they have all these really cool methods for ensuring their babies survive, right? Or at least some of their progeny survive. And I think that's really, really neat. And so just teaching people that, like, a lot of people just have no idea. They're just like, yeah, fish just like lay eggs and then babies come from them, right? Like, it's like, yeah, but some of them have them in their mouth and some of them hold on to them hanging from their vent. And some of them, you know, put them in the bubble nests and some of them guard them and some of them scatter. It's just like, there's such a variety. And I think that's amazing. So I thought those 2 episodes were really, really fun. But yeah, I don't really have anything else I need to add, but I really enjoyed that.
I think like, I agree. Like I don't know why, but I really like the episodes that like we run out of time and we got to do 2 episodes instead of 1. Those tend to be my favorite, where it's just like, oh my God, we have too many things to share. We definitely need to do another episode. So the reproduction one for sure. We have like the myths kind of like little mini series we have like going on right now, where we're like, okay, we just need to cut sharks out of this completely and do a whole other episode. But I also like the water chemistry one we did, because I feel like that's such a hard thing to grasp for folks, and to try to make that accessible. And again, that was the first one we did where we're like, that we can't cover all this in one episode. We have to make
I'm looking at the clock
here. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think like, I don't know, I don't think I have an episode that I could sometimes I'll think about an episode, I'm like, oh yeah, we totally did this already. This is awesome. So but yeah, I don't have anything else to add though. So
moving on to lessons learned and future plans and hopes for the aquatic community for our podcast. And so for me personally, one of the lessons that I learned was, you know, creating and maintaining a podcast isn't just slapping an audio recording into Spotify or whatever platform. It takes a lot more than that. Like, you have to, you know, basically determine what software you're going to use to record and edit that audio recording. You have to find a platform to host those recordings. And so we use Spotify. And then you have to also do social media and outreach, which Christine does a lot of. And then Josh also reaches out to, you know, potential guests to have on the podcast. And so it's a lot of these like moving parts that you don't necessarily think of when you go into it. But then afterwards, you're like, oh, there's actually a lot that we need to do, you know, and even down to like using, you know, the correct microphone and like having like, you know, proper equipment to be able to do that. I think a lot of people just think, you know, you can just get up and do it, you know, one day. And it does take a little like preparation. And so again, for any of you guys out there that are thinking about like doing a podcast, just some things to think about. And then my, I guess, future plan and hopes would be to, garner more listeners onto the podcast, and also continuing to recruit individuals with diverse backgrounds to come on. So I think, again, that's kind of what keeps me going, at least, is just being able to learn more about what people do. Like, I don't know. I guess I'm just weird like that, where I'm like, tell me everything, like, about your, position and like your life. Like, I want to hear it all. So, But what about you guys?
For me, I agree as well that like I really like having guests on and like chatting with folks and like finding out what they do. But it's like there are so many people that I want to have on the podcast. I'm like, we also need to do episodes where it's just 3 of us, because I like doing those too. Yeah, I don't know. I just sometimes I look at because we have a list of like things we'd like to do, and I look at the list and I'm like, oh, there's so many things. So I'm just really thankful, Amber, that like you're such a wizard with editing, and like we're so like lucky to have you to do all of that for us. So it's great. The social media thing is a lot of work, but like social media has gotten complicated in the last few years. So it's like trying to like, tread that water as well and trying to figure that out. But yeah. How about you, Josh?
I think, look, it would be cool in the future. I don't know. Like, I like the idea of sponsorship just to be able to give us a chance to be able to do a little bit more outreach wise. But if that doesn't happen, that's fine. I think this is just sort of like a labor of love, and we enjoy hanging out and talking about fish, which I think is just why it's so easy for us. But yeah, I think, down the road, it would be fun to be able to visit more aquariums and do stuff like that. And I love having guests on, especially because we get to every single episode that we have a guest on who's an aquatic expert in some area of aquatics. We do get into a little bit about their career and education and how they got there. And I love that because it just demonstrates and gives people an idea of like how they can get to that level, or how and those paths are not, they're oftentimes very circuitous, right? Like they're not always very straightforward. It's not like, oh, I just knew I wanted. Look, for Connor, it was different, right? Connor was like, I was 3, I saw a squid, I knew I was going to work with squid for like a cephalopods for the rest of my life. Some people are like that, but a lot of other people, it's like you never know how you're going to fall into that. And we do a pretty in-depth deep dive, another pun, about our own careers in one of our episodes. So definitely go back if you want to listen to that. So I think we should probably move on to Species Spotlight, right?
I'm going to try to do a speed run on this, if that's cool with you guys.
Sorry, we got to start chatting.
All good.
We're good.
So we have done Species Spotlight episodes where we like deep dive into a species or like a group of species. So we thought about this a little bit about what would be appropriate for you guys in Australia, New Zealand area. We're like, what's an American fish or a very North American fish? So the species I'm going to talk about today is actually the Muskellunge, also known as the muskie. So really freaky looking fish. The Muskellunge, also known as the muskie. It's the ski or the lunge. There's a million different names that people call it. It's Esox Muskellunge. You're going from the top of your head. No notes.
No notes.
So the muskie is, though, it's one of the biggest freshwater fish in North America. Like as far as predatory fish go, there are bigger fish like sturgeons and stuff like that. But it is the largest member of the pike family. Pike are present in like other parts of the world, but muskies specifically come from like Northeast North America. Like the Great Lakes area is kind of like their base of operations. They can get pretty big. I'm using the appropriate units here, just under 30 kilograms and 1.5 meters long. But more commonly, they can get like 15-ish kilograms and a meter long. But record fish are like 30, 40 kilograms in size. So pretty big. They're big, long, kind of like a log. So you can see that in the picture here. Their fins are pretty far set back on their body. They're kind of a similar body plan to like a gar. And I'm sure everyone here knows what a gar is. But they basically have this big head with a huge mouth. They're kind of cool looking. So that's an aquarium picture, but I've got a couple more pictures here. You can see that big mouth on their faces. So kind of cool looking.
Fearsome.
Yeah, I think people talk about getting attacked by them, but I'm like, okay, sure, whatever.
With the duckbill? I mean, that's what it looks like to me with their lips.
Yeah.
Like,
but that mouth gets big. And like, I'll actually have a couple pictures where you can see their big mouth. So
gotcha.
They're kind of like silver or green in color. You can see here there's a bit of variation in color, but they're stripy or spotted, depending on where they live and how turbid the water is. So how clear the water is, their body patterns and color might be slightly different in different bodies of water. Now, the name muskie or muskellunge comes from a bunch of different sources. So I saw things that said it came from the Ojibwe language or the Algonquian language, both indigenous groups in that part of North America. It comes potentially from Mashkanuzi, which means great fish, but it's also maybe some sort of alteration of like Canadian French as well. So I saw that there's like 94 different names for this fish that have been used over the years. So
cool.
It's a legendary fish that's been important for a lot of cultures in North America over the years. So they are a lake-dwelling fish. They are an ambush predator. So like I said, they look like a log. They will sit in the lake and be like, I don't know what your problem is. I'm just a log. Oh. And they will literally eat anything they can fit in their mouth. So here's just a couple of examples of like people that have caught them. They're a really huge, popular sport fish. Yeah. I mean, the one top, this picture, that lady is like, her arms are like way in front of her face. You know?
Oh, you're right. Look at how big her hand is.
Yeah. It's a big hand.
She knows the trick.
Yeah, that's the trick for sure. But yeah, it's a big sport fish. Folks will fish for them like out of boats, basically. And I think people do eat them, but for the most part, people catch them because they're like, it's the sport of catching them, right? So pretty cool.
I was going to say the ambush thing. Like I've seen that with pike a lot because I've caught a lot of pike.
These guys are a relative of pike. So
they're just like pike and pickerel. So they just come out of nowhere. Like you don't even see them when I go fishing. So
yeah, you can see here the mouth, how big their mouth is. And they will literally eat anything they can fit in their mouth. So they will eat ducks. They will eat loons. They will eat like frogs or other fish. I read that they can eat something up to 2/3 the length of their body. So you can see in this picture, this one eating a grayling, which is like a salmonid, right? So anything they can fit in their mouth, and they usually eat it head first. This picture here is actually a pike, but it is a relative of the muskie, and it's eaten a little like trout. And the trout's like, uh-oh.
Oh,
it's crazy that you can. Yeah, I don't know how someone got that photo.
Yeah, I know, right?
I know.
But they're pretty cool fish. You generally see them solo, and people have all kinds of like lore about how they catch them or where they catch them from. But they generally form loose groups when it's breeding season. So the male will basically pick a territory and defend it and like breed with any females that come by. And other than that, I mean, they're an apex predator, so there's not much that eat them. Maybe a bald eagle, if it's feeling lucky, which is one of our larger sea eagles. And they grow and reproduce pretty slowly. So they grow pretty fast or pretty slow. They're a cold water fish. So, really the only threat to them is like fishing pressures. And there's been a lot of back and forth about how many you can catch, that kind of thing. So do you guys have any thoughts about these guys?
No, they're cool.
Yeah. No, they're just like really big. Like I can't even, like when you're mentioning like a bald eagle, I'm just like, well, I guess if they were like a certain size, right? But like for the previous like photos that you showed us, I'm just like, oh, that'd be a hefty, trying to fly that back to the nest.
Yeah, I think it's like juvenile ones maybe will get picked up by a bald eagle. Not much else is big enough to eat them in their habitats.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, so that's it for these guys. I think we probably need to wrap up because we're at time.
Sure. Thanks for listening to Getting Fishy with It. You can find our website with show notes at gettingfishypod.substack.com. You can find us on Blue Sky at gettingfishypod.bsky.social and on Instagram at gettingfishypod. You can also find us on Facebook and LinkedIn by searching for Getting Fishy with It. If you want to drop us an email, you can send your complaints, questions, or adulations to gettingfishypod@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening. We've been Getting Fishy with It, so keep schooling, my friends, because knowledge is power.
Thanks, ANZAAP.
Thank you.
Thank you.